Greetings one and all, and welcome back to another Gun Workshop video. My name is Doodleman149, and in this series I go over all the best builds for close and long range fights for all weapons in Modern Warfare. In this video I'll be doing a unique build for every light machine gun in the game. The builds in these compilation videos aren't optimized for a specific range. Instead, they are just unique or well-rounded builds that I feel are worth mentioning just in case any of you out there were looking for more variety. Just in case you didn't know, I'll list all the weapons I'll be going over real quickly here. We've got the Russian PKM, the British SA-87, the German MG34, the Israeli M91, the German Holger 26, the Belgian Mk9 Bruen, and the American Finn light machine gun. Before I begin, remember to leave a like or comment if you enjoy any part of this video. If you don't enjoy it, a surefire way to get improved content in the future would be to let me know about it in the comments below. And as always, if you want to see more great Modern Warfare, or soon-to-be Battlefield 2042 content from me, be sure to subscribe and ding that bell so that you never miss a new upload. Plus, check out all my older videos if you're so inclined. Without further delay though, let's get started with the PKM. For my PKM build, I present Purple Haze. Built off of the Sunset Hue blueprint for looks alone, we start off in the muzzle section with a compensator to cut down on our vertical recoil without harming our mobility at all, really. The tack laser is next to increase our ADS speed and stability. The Forged Tack ultralight stock is used for looks mostly, but it does increase our strafe speed as well. Sleight of Hand is here to make our reloads less painful, and rounding this build off is the best PKM attachment available, the Snatch Grip, for improved ADS speed and recoil control at the cost of mobility. Purple Haze is somewhere between my Squall and the Chills build I presented in my PKM Gun Workshop video a while ago. The compensator and Snatch Grip work excellently together to severely reduce our vertical recoil, making this gun even easier to control than it already was. Plus, the ADS speed increase from the foregrip automatically cancels out the only negative from the compensator. Speaking of ADS speed, the tack laser is great on all mid to close range LMG builds, as most have poor ADS speed, and the tack laser is probably the best overall attachment for boosting this stat. The ultralight stock, as I mentioned before, was mostly chosen for aesthetic purposes, but the strafe speed boost is helpful for either being able to quickly step out around a corner and melt someone, or for dodging distant shots. Sleight of Hand, for me, is mostly a staple of every LMG build, as it's probably the weakest aspect of using any of these weapons. I chose to forego an optic, as the irons on the PKM are excellent in my opinion. If you do need a sight though, perhaps for ranged fighting, then I'd suggest removing the stock for one, as if you aren't running the Sunset Hue blueprint, there may not be such a need for that specific stock. Purple Haze is best in standard multiplayer and ground war. It won't work so well in Warzone, but in Plunder, where deaths have less meaning, this build is excellent even without the stealth attachments.
Moving on to the British SA-87, I present y'all the Ninja. We start out in the muzzle section with the tactical suppressor for no downside suppression option. The SA-87 18.2 inch factory barrel is next used to boost our mobility at the cost of range and recoil control. I've next chosen the integral hybrid sight for variety in visual engagement ranges. Staple grip tape is next to boost our sprint out and ADS speed at the cost of stability. And a Ranger full grip round this build off for even further boosted recoil control and an aim and stability increase at the cost of movement speed and ADS speed.
Hopefully you were able to understand me beneath that barbaric version of English I've just spoken. But in case you didn't, the Ninja is a stealth-focused SA-87 build. The tactical suppressor offers basically no downsides while suppressing our weapon. The medium short barrel, the 18.2 inch barrel, combined with the stippled grip tape, allows for greater overall mobility in terms of movement, ADS, and sprint out speed. This lends this build to being more effective in close quarters. The integral hybrid sight offers you some variety when it comes to engaging the enemy. When inside a building, the shorter zoom is probably preferable, while if you're looking to take advantage of the SA-87's impressive range, the larger zoom will serve you better. Speaking of those further ranges, in order to help the Ninja stay more accurate over further distances, like some you'll find in ground war, the Ranger foregrip cuts down on vertical recoil while also stabilizing your aim, making for more consistent recoil overall. Keep in mind, this weapon still has a slow reload in that regard, so taking it on tons of enemies at once may not work out, and the slow reload may screw you over sometimes in close quarters. This build is best against a small number of enemies at medium ranges. This build is solid for standard multiplayer and ground war. The smaller magazine size will probably hold it back in Warzone, but I feel it would do adequately in Plunder at least. Moving on to what used to be my least favorite LMG in the game, we have the MG34 build, the Furnace. If you want the fastest MG34 available, then get ready, since we're starting off in the muzzle section again with the compensator to cut down on this weapon's basically completely vertical recoil. The FSS stubby barrel conversely increases our recoil and reduces our range, while giving us huge movement and ADS speed boosts. The tack laser doubles down on the previously mentioned ADS speed boost while also stabilizing our aim. Removing the stock is going to further harm our recoil control, but will also double down on the boost of the short barrel. And in order to fight this weapon's almost 8-second reload time, we use sleight of hand to reduce that considerably. Given how hard the MG34 typically is to control, at least with the base version, I was worried that a stubby version of the gun would be absolutely terrible. However, given that the recoil is, as I said, basically all vertical, pulling down on your thumbstick easily controls your aim. The compensator attempts to help in this department, but the combination of the short barrel and the stock removal negates this benefit almost entirely. Those two attachments do drastically speed up this weapon, however, making its mobility more in line with its blistering rate of fire. Using the tack laser on here also gives us the snappiest version of the MG34 you're going to find anywhere. A plus side that I really truly think is worth mentioning is the iron sights. We all know the base MG34 has that stupid left-hand bar on its irons that just completely destroys your peripheral vision. Well, I saw on all blueprints, not just the one that I use for this build, that annoying sidebar isn't there. That means that the irons are now actually good on this weapon and worth trying out. This build is best for standard multiplayer, probably mediocre at best in ground war, and definitely not a good choice for Warzone, unless you're just looking to mess around in Plunder. Next, we move on to Israel's M91 with my build, PHALANX. This build was made for holding lanes and being very accurate. We start in the barrel section with the M91 heavy barrel to greatly boost our damage range and recoil control while slowing the weapon down in general. I again choose to use the integral hybrid sight for a variety of visual engagement ranges. The XRK striker stock is next to boost this weapon's ADS speed a little bit. The 150 round belt magazine attachment is next used for a 50% increase to our ammo while sacrificing mobility yet again. And this build is finally rounded off by the bipod for boosted recoil control while crouched or prone with no downsides at all. The PHALANX is more of a traditional gunner's weapon than anything else. The bipod offers both a classic LMG look while also being useful if you're crouched behind cover or prone on an objective, as the recoil reduction with those comes with no statistical downsides. The heavy barrel is mostly there to help control our recoil at all other points while also making our range and bullet velocity more useful in ground war. The integral hybrid sight serves a similar purpose as it did on the Ninja, although instead of being in close quarters with the lower zoom here is more for boosted peripheral vision when attempting to control a more open section of the map. The XRK striker stock attempts to speed up this weapon, but it can only do so much when it's contending with the downsides of the barrel, optic, and extended belt magazine. Speaking of which, the 150 round belt allows for suppressive action as well as fighting waves of enemies without being forced to reload. This can be useful for holding a lane in standard multiplayer, covering an open area in ground war, or being able to chew through multiple armored foes without reloading in Warzone and Plunder. This build is a defensive build, so rushing with this weapon will result in you straight up not having a good time. I enjoy this build in standard multiplayer, but it is best for ground war. While I wouldn't use this build for Warzone, it's still a fun Plunder option if you're looking for variety. Now, I know I said in my Tease Have Holger video, link below, that his Holger was the best one I'd ever used. However, that was before I developed my Rifleman build for it. Starting off in the muzzle section, we have the muzzle brake to reduce our horizontal recoil without harming our ADS speed all that much. Next, I move all the way to the stock section with the XRK Axis stock for boosted ADS speed. Sleight of hand makes this already very fast reload even faster. I use the 30 round magazines for boosted speed in every department at the cost of ammo capacity. And the operator foregrip finishes off this build by cutting down on vertical recoil without hurting our mobility at all, really. I will confidently say that this is the best Holger build for standard multiplayer. The perfect combination of the muzzle brake and the operator foregrip make this weapon a laser beam without harming our movement speed at all. Both of those attachments have an ADS speed penalty that is more than negated by the Axis stock and the 30-round magazines. Sleight of hand isn't really needed for the base 100-round magazines as reloading is less frequent, but with the smaller mags we have here, the reload speed is greatly appreciated. I've come to respect the Holger's irons as they are very clear and accurate, so optics aren't really needed for this weapon, even at longer ranges. The balancing act of the muzzle brake and the operator foregrip cannot be understated when it comes to the Holger. The base weapon has great recoil as it is, so cutting down on it in all areas makes the Rifleman supremely accurate. This build is best for standard multiplayer and ground war, but will probably suffer in Warzone because of its limited ammo and lack of a suppressor. However, as with most builds so far, this is still a fun, viable option for plunder. Moving on to the Mk9 Bruen, I present to you all my lead spitter build. Built more as a traditional LMG than anything else, we start out in the barrel section with the XRK Summit 26.8-inch barrel for boosted range and recoil control while harming our mobility fairly heavily in general. The tack laser is our next attachment, and it attempts to at least alleviate the ADS speed loss caused by the long barrel while also boosting our aiming stability. The PVX Hollow 7 sight is my next attachment to allow for a slightly boosted visual range with a clear, solid sight picture. The FSS close quarter stock continues to boost our ADS speed, and the Merc foregrip finally rounds this build off for the greatest recoil reduction from a foregrip, while also tightening our hipfire spread. Most Bruen builds you see will use the 60-round magazine since it boosts mobility and reload speed while only sacrificing 40% of its ammo. Conversely, I've chosen to keep the base magazine to better use that attachment slot elsewhere, while also allowing for a huge amount of ammo for suppressive fire. The Summit barrel is really what makes this build so accurate, as even though the Merc foregrip helps here as well, the barrel makes our bullets fly faster and more accurately, making this build better suited for a defensive role over range. Given the downsides of this massive barrel though, I felt the need for the tack laser and the CQC stock to dull the negative impact to our ADS speed. Our movement speed is still hindered quite a bit, so this build will not have you flying across the battlefield. I recommend pairing it with something faster, like a pistol. Overall, what you have here is similar to my PHALANX build for the M91. It's a slow, defense-oriented LMG. I definitely wouldn't be pushing objectives or buildings with this build. Definitely offer support fire for those who are capping and subsequent defending fire for said objective, but running and gunning with this build is basically off the table. This build works fine in standard multiplayer for the aforementioned defensive role. This also transfers well to ground war, where the large ammo pool and great rate of fire will make fending off multiple opponents a breeze. There are definitely better builds for Warzone, so I recommend checking out my Bruen video for a build for there. For the final LMG we're covering today, we have my favorite, the American Fin LMG, built as the chainsaw. We start off in the muzzle section with the muzzle brake to cut down on side-to-side bounce while firing. After that, we attach the XRK long shot adverse barrel for boosted range and greatly boosted fire rate at the cost of overall mobility. The tack laser will make aiming in quicker, directly counteracting the downsides of the long barrel. Next, we come to the namesake of this build, the chainsaw stock, for boosted movement and ADS speed while forcing us to only hip fire. And we then round the build off with sleight of hand to make those frequent reloads less harsh. Apparently, the chainsaw was a weapon in Call of Duty Ghosts, a game I never played, so I figured I'd try out Modern Warfare's version of it. The muzzle brake and long shot barrel are the dream combo of horizontal and vertical recoil mitigation that makes for a deadly accurate build, even if this one happens to be hipfire only because of the chainsaw stock. The tack laser, as I mentioned before, is just there to boost our sight-in speed. The chainsaw stock is weird for me, as it seems like it would make the weapon harder to wield, but it improves our mobility in every way, which is great. The main reason for sleight of hand on this build is because even though we have a 75-round Velt magazine as our base ammo, the fact that the adverse barrel boosts our rate of fire to over 1,000 rounds per minute means that those 75 rounds won't be lasting very long at all, so you might as well make our reloads faster if we can. This build is a fun and effective choice for standard multiplayer. The fact that ADSing essentially is not an option here makes this build less effective at longer ranges in ground war and Warzone. However, the adverse barrels can absolutely chew through enemy armor, so it may be worth using there, or just in plunder, for that fact alone. And there you have it, folks. All 7 of Modern Warfare's LMGs have been covered. If If you want to see the individual Gun Workshop videos for each weapon where I go more in depth on their stats and optimized builds, I'll leave a link to their playlist in the description below, as well as have it in the top right corner of your screen right now. I know there's word of that other LMG being in the game's code for a while now, but I wasn't going to wait for that to be drip fed to us at some unspecified future date. When, or rather if, that weapon is ever released, I'll do a Gun Workshop video for that, but who knows when that might be. Hopefully, these fairly unique LMG builds will offer you some variety when you get bored of the regular old builds you've been using forever. So, if I had to name my top 3 builds out of these, I'd probably be, first, the Rifleman for the Holger because of its incredibly accurate and consistent nature. Next, I'd go with the Speedy Furnace build for the MG34. It was surprisingly easy to use despite the increased recoil, and that reload speed is still awful though. And my third favorite is going to be the Chainsaw. As I'm not a fan of akimbo pistols, I thought this hipfire only fin would be terrible, but I actually really enjoyed it. If you're looking for a place to start testing these out, I'd go with one of those 3 first. So thank you all very much for making it to the end here. I know that based on my audience retention charts that barely any of you make it this far in the video, so to the few of you who are here, you're all legends and I greatly appreciate all of you. What did you all think of these builds? Do any of them look good to you? Are there any you have questions or concerns about? Regardless, feel free to ask away and I'll respond as fast as my fingers can type. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and let the YouTube algorithm know that my content isn't terrible and that it should promote it some more. Another great way to do this is by commenting anything. Even if you just want to chat, I'll be here to listen. And as always, subscribing is a great way to keep up to date with all my Modern Warfare content. So thank you all again. I hope you're all having a great day because you all deserve to. I know my community is made of the best people out there, so never doubt your self-worth. Always remember you are valuable. I've been your host and your newest favorite YouTuber, Doodleman149. I wish you all the best, and I will see you later.